In recent revelations that have sent shockwaves through the political landscape, an investigation has uncovered a disturbing instance of operational recklessness within the current administration. A group text, originally intended for planning critical national security actions, has exposed not only a breach in protocol but also a blatant disregard for the constitutional separation of powers. This scandal, marked by the inadvertent inclusion of a leading journalist, underscores the urgent need to scrutinize the decision-making processes at the highest levels of government. The origins of this controversy lie in a group chat that served as the forum for discussing war plans. Among the participants were key figures from the administration. Names such as Rubio, Haidt, Gabbard, Ratcliffe, and J.D. Vance appear prominently. These individuals, entrusted with the nation's security, opted to use a commonplace messaging application rather than secure, dedicated channels to deliberate over matters of war. The gravity of the situation was compounded when the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic was unintentionally added to the conversation, offering an unplanned window into what can only be described as an exceedingly cavalier approach to national defense. The legal implications of this disclosure are as profound as they are unsettling. Congressman Jamie Raskin has been unequivocal in his criticism, contending that the actions in question not only breach established legal protocols but likely contravene the law outright. Raskin's remarks cast a harsh light on the administration's general negligence, a pattern evidenced by its history of over 40 setbacks in federal court, where actions have repeatedly been halted by temporary restraining orders or preliminary injunctions. According to Raskin, such repeated failures are symptomatic of a government that prioritizes expediency over adherence to the rule of law. At the heart of this issue is a fundamental constitutional principle: the power to declare war resides with Congress, not the president. Yet, the current administration appears to be operating under an assumption of unchecked authority, effectively sidelining the co-equal branches of government. The group chat incident is emblematic of this broader trend. In discussing operational plans that, in substance, amount to declarations of war on foreign nations such as Venezuela or Yemen, the involved parties have overstepped their constitutional mandate. Their actions, marked by operational negligence and a flagrant disregard for legal boundaries, suggest an alarming willingness to operate as though the established system of checks and balances were an inconvenience rather than a safeguard. This case is not isolated. It forms part of a larger pattern of administrative mismanagement, where the methods employed in executing government policy are as questionable as the policies themselves. Critics have pointed to similar past transgressions, notably the mishandling of classified information, a controversy that once dogged figures like Hillary Clinton. It is a bitter irony that many of the same Republican lawmakers who once demanded congressional investigations into Clinton's management of sensitive data are now calling for accountability in the wake of these new revelations. Their earlier outcries, focused on alleged lapses in security protocols, now ring hollow against the backdrop of actions by current officials who appear to act with impunity. Adding to the complexity of this scandal are judicial pronouncements that reinforce the argument of unlawful overreach. For instance, Judge Bosberg's opinion underscored that deportations executed without providing individuals their due process were a stark violation of the Immigration and Naturalization Act. Such judicial critiques highlight a persistent pattern, a government acting outside the boundaries of legal authorization, driven by a desire to consolidate power and bypass the necessary institutional checks. This same mindset is evident in the way the group chat was used to coordinate military actions via an unsecured platform, a decision that not only flouts legal norms but endangers national security. A further dimension of this unfolding drama is the stark political hypocrisy on display. The current Republican narrative, which once centered on condemning Hillary Clinton's alleged mishandling of information, now finds itself reflecting on its own record of accountability. Prominent voices within the party have, in the past, condemned Clinton for allegedly being lax with classified material, criticism that contributed to her electoral defeat. Yet, now that similar lapses have come to light within their own circles, these lawmakers face the inconvenient reality of their compromised standards. They have long insisted that any mismanagement of sensitive data should lead to severe repercussions, including forced resignations or legal consequences. The contrast between their previous demands and the current situation is as striking as it is troubling. Moreover, the use of an unsecured messaging application for discussions of national defense has far-reaching implications. The inherent risks of such a practice cannot be overstated. Unsecured networks expose critical information to potential interception by foreign adversaries. In a context where the intelligence community already faces significant challenges, the casual use of everyday technology to coordinate military operations presents a glaring vulnerability. The possibility that sensitive data might be accessed by hostile entities, thereby compromising operational security and endangering lives, renders this incident not just a bureaucratic misstep, but a serious national security scandal. Prominent Republican figures have recently reiterated the need for accountability. Marco Rubio, for instance, has been vocal in asserting that no individual is above the law, regardless of their political stature. Similarly, John Ratcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard have emphasized that any mishandling of classified information represents a grave violation of national security protocols. Their remarks serve as a reminder that the standards they once demanded from their political opponents must now be applied uniformly, lest the nation's security be irreparably compromised. This scandal also has broader political repercussions. As Trump's ratings continue to falter amid rising concerns over the economy, marked by inflation, soaring living costs, and falling market indicators, the administration's operational failures contribute to a mounting sense of public disillusionment. Critics argue that the administration's reliance on digital communication tools, without appropriate security measures, is symptomatic of a leadership that is more interested in consolidating power than in safeguarding the nation. The consequences of this approach are being felt not only in the realm of national security but also in the daily lives of citizens who are increasingly aware of the potential dangers posed by such recklessness. A recent article by Jeffrey Goldberg in The Atlantic further highlights the gravity of the situation. According to Goldberg's analysis, the incident in question is far from an isolated anomaly. It represents a systemic failure within an administration that, from its very inception, has shown a willingness to bypass established legal frameworks in pursuit of its own objectives. The fact that such planning was conducted via an application readily available to the general public only adds to the gravity of the oversight. It illustrates a disturbing lack of precaution, a willingness to operate on the fringes of legality that ultimately undermines the foundational principles of governance. In light of these developments, it is clear that the current political environment is at a crossroads. The unchecked executive actions, coupled with the administration's cavalier handling of sensitive information, have raised critical questions about accountability and the preservation of constitutional norms. The fallout from this scandal is likely to reverberate across the political spectrum, forcing a reckoning with the practices that have long been tolerated in the pursuit of expedient governance. As this investigation unfolds, the imperative for transparency and accountability becomes ever more urgent. The nation must grapple with the reality that when the mechanisms of power are allowed to operate without proper oversight, the very foundations of democracy are put at risk. The revelations uncovered in this investigation serve as a stark reminder that constitutional checks and balances are not mere formalities, but essential safeguards against the concentration of power in the hands of a few. In conclusion, the group text scandal involving top White House officials is more than a simple miscommunication. It is emblematic of a broader pattern of operational negligence and constitutional disregard. With critical voices such as Jamie Raskin and numerous Republican figures calling for accountability, the incident underscores the urgent need to realign government practices with the principles of transparency and legal rigor. As the nation watches closely, the challenge remains to ensure that those entrusted with power are held to the highest standards of responsibility, lest the very fabric of our democratic system be compromised. The stakes are undeniably high, and the call for reform has never been more resonant.